Hi, this is TBailey, and I'd like to present a data overview on Clark Creek Elementary STEM Academy for you. I had 4 objectives when I began this. The first was to compare Clark Creek students' mathematical results from the Georgia Milestone and CRCT over the last 4 years with those of students from Cherokee County and Georgia. Second was to take those same results and compare them with other Title I and STEM academies in the county. The third was to disaggregate the data to identify any possible achievement gaps by ethnicity or gender. And then the last one was to take the 2016 milestone test, disaggregate the data, and identify the strengths and weaknesses of each math domain for grades 3, 4, and 5. Clark Creek has a vision statement that states, preparing and inspiring students to meet the challenges of the 21st century through quality academics with an emphasis on science, technology, engineering, and math. And that is the reason why I decided to focus on the math component. Here are some quick statistics. Clark Creek is a school of choice in Cherokee County, so anyone can choose to come. The school opened in 2012 with approximately 900 students and has grown each year by almost 50 students. Approximately 56% of the students receive free or reduced cost meals. We have a high transient rate of approximately 40%. The population is 54% white, 25% Hispanic, and 19% African American. And then if you look at gender, 47% of the students are female and the remaining 53% are male. Looking specifically at the first 2 years for 3rd grade on the CRCT mathematics scores, you can see that from 2013 to 2014, the school made great improvements. We went from 21% does not meet down to 9% in 1 year. And then additionally on the other end, we increased from 40% of exceeding scores to 60%. In 4th grade, the results were slightly different in that the does not meet category went up not only for Clark Creek, but for the county and the state from 2013 to 2014. In 5th grade, you can see that the percentage of 5th grade students exceeding proficiency increased by 3% for Clark Creek in that first 2 years, and that the does not meet went down by 3%. Looking at the milestones from 2015, comparing it to the state and the county, you can see that our 3rd grade, the yellow is the state of Georgia, blue is Cherokee, and the green is Clark Creek, that we met or exceeded the state for 3rd grade. We exceeded county and state for 4th grade, and then our 5th grade kind of split the difference. We were less than the county, but greater than the state results. In 2015 to 2016, I could not do a comparison with the state and the county because I had no way to access those numbers yet. But looking internally at the school, you can see that our beginning ratings have dropped for 3rd and 4th grade, but they did rise for 5th grade. And then our distinguished jumped for 3rd grade, increased by 2% for 4th grade, and remained the same in 5th grade. Then if you look at the 4 STEM academies that are in Cherokee County, Ball Ground, Canton, Clark Creek, and Holly Springs, when you look at 3rd grade, 4th, and 5th, their average scale score for mathematics on the milestones in 2015, you can see that Clark Creek was exceeding the other 3 academies. This is a breakdown of just the 3rd grade one, showing you with a pie chart how the schools were doing, you would want to see the greatest number of students in the maroon and green categories because they are the proficient and distinguished. And you can see that once again Clark Creek had a slightly bigger area than the others. Here we compare the Title I schools in the county. We have Canton, Clark Creek, Hasty, Oak Grove, R.M. Moore, and Woodstock. And you can see that with the exception of Woodstock, Clark Creek exceeded the scores for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade of those of the other Title I schools. When I went and disaggregated according to ethnicity, the results were pretty amazing. What I did was rather than show you the exact numbers, I converted them to percent and I compared them to the white student population. And so for the 2013, you can see that in 3rd grade, there was a 3% difference or gap between African Americans and the white students on their results, with a slightly over 3% difference for the Hispanics. Those gaps increased for the African American students on the 2015 milestone, but then went down to approximately 0 with the 2016 results. So that was excellent. The Hispanic gap has remained approximately the same for the 3rd graders. In the 4th grade, you can see that it has remained consistent here with the 2, and then with this 2016, we have reduced them again so that the final results were less than 2% for African Americans and Hispanics. Going to 5th grade, if we look at the 2016 milestones, we can see that the gap between the white students and the African Americans is only about 1%, and that gap for the between white students and Hispanic is 3%. Here I showed you the actual number of the mean scale score in mathematics by gender. For 3rd graders, it was actually the females who came out ahead with an average score or mean scale score of 532, and the gentlemen had 525. Then it got even closer in 4th grade with the females scoring 532 and the males 535. 5th grade, that gap continues to become smaller, with the females being 515 and the gentlemen being 520. These results actually really surprised me and made me feel good about the math and science focus that we have at our school. Then looking at just the results for the 2016 milestone math scores, I disaggregated them according to the domains. And in the 5th grade, we can see all the students, they were rated either remedial learning, monitor learning, or accelerate learning. And here are my conclusions or my observations. The greatest percentage of students to receive accelerate learning was in the number and operations in base 10. So that would be a strong category for us. The greatest percentage of students to receive remedial learning was in geometry. So that would be a weakness that we need to work on. And monitor learning, the lowest percentage received was in number and operations. So we will want to really work at that one. Here are the results for the disaggregated domain results for 4th grade. The greatest number to percent of students to get monitored learning was in geometry. So we really have to watch that one. The smallest section of accelerated learning was 8%. So this is an area of weakness we would want to work on. If we looked at the others, they are fairly similar, with the greatest amount of remedial learning happening in number and operations for fractions. So that would be our weakness that we would also work on. In third grade, there were only 4 domains, and so if you look at them, they're fairly consistent. The largest percent of remedial learning happens in operations and algebraic thinking, which kind of makes sense because it's the first time they're being introduced to that concept. And our greatest percent of accelerated learning happens in numbers and operations. There's a real focus on that particular domain in third grade. In summary, the math scores at Clark Creek as a whole are improving each year in comparison with the county and state scores. The math scores at Clark Creek as a whole exceed those of the other STEM academies in Clark Creek, Georgia. Math scores at Clark Creek as a whole exceed those of the other Title I schools in the county except for Woodstock Elementary. The math gap in scores by ethnicity is minor, and the achievement gap in math scores by gender is non-existent. Fifth grade's most successful domain is numbers and operations in base 10, and the weakest domain is geometry. Fourth grade's most successful domain is geometry, and the weakest is measurement and data and numbers and operations fractions. Third grade's most successful domain is number and operations, and the weakest domain is operations and algebraic thinking. My recommendations are that students receiving remedial learning rankings should begin coordinated services with the grade level EIP specialist and have their performance evaluated quarterly. Students receiving remedial learning rankings should also receive additional tutoring 2 days a week after school in math. And students receiving Accelerate learning rankings should be challenged in the LEAP program once a week. But those are only my inputs. Yours is critical. What do you propose we do to help these children meet their true potential in mathematics?